10 oil field workers have died over the last 5 years under very similar circumstances, but what killed them is just now becoming clear. The workers all had a similar job: to open what is known as a thief hatch on top of an oil tank and either take a sample or measure the volume inside. Now federal agencies are warning energy producers that new safety measures are necessary to protect workers against volatile organic compounds.
In March of last year, 57-year-old David Simpson was driving his truck for an Oklahoma company, hauling crude oil from well sites. He pulled up to this well site near Ardmore and climbed the catwalk to the top of the tanks to check the levels inside. He never made it back down. The Oklahoma Medical Examiner's report shows a cursory examination of Simpson's body and a toxicology screen for illegal drugs, which all came back negative. Their conclusion on what claimed his life? Undetermined. What followed for Simpson's widow, Cindy, was months of trying to find out what killed her husband.
After my experience with the coroner's office, I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. I tried calling the hospital, I tried calling the coroner's office multiple times. I've spoken with OSHA, and it was kind of a dead end for me.
We attempted to talk with the medical examiner's office about this case, but they refused an interview. Cindy Simpson says the way her husband's body was found should have been enough to prompt a real investigation of his death.
Well, where they're found over the thief hatch, dead. He was hanging over a railing. He was in the middle of taking a sample, and why didn't they explore that? Why didn't they find out? I thought that was what the coroner's office did, is if you had an unattended death, that you found out what happened.
Fred Bremseth is a Minnesota attorney who now represents the Simpson family and 5 others who lost loved ones to suspected inhalation of volatile organic compounds while working at a well site.
There's probably many, many more work-related deaths out there from this same cause that we have not identified yet.
The well site where Simpson died is part of the Woodford Shale near Ardmore and was run by XTO Energy, Inc., a subsidiary of ExxonMobil. We also requested an interview with them, and they too refused. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration did investigate Simpson's death, but dropped the case after the medical examiner's ruling on the cause of death. David Simpson is now among a group that has come to be known as the NIOSH 9. That's the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, a division of the Centers for Disease Control. Since 2010, 9 men have died under very similar circumstances, doing very similar jobs involving a common denominator: oil tanks at drilling sites. NIOSH now believes that the 9 and possibly a 10th victim this year all died because they inhaled VOCs, volatile organic compounds found in crude oil, especially crude from fracked wells. Looking through an infrared camera, this is what it looks like when a worker opens what is known as the thief hatch on top of those oil tanks. Despite the obvious exposure, in only 2 of the 9 known cases were there rulings from medical examiners that VOCs were to blame for the deaths. One of those cases involved 21-year-old Dustin Bergsing, who was testing an oil tank at a well site near Mandaree, North Dakota in January of 2012. When he was found lying on the catwalk dead, the thief hatch to the tank was open. In that case, the medical examiner did a complete investigation and toxicology screen and concluded Bergsing died from hydrocarbon poisoning due to inhaling petroleum vapors. The compounds found in his bloodstream read like a who's who list of deadly gases. But for Cindy Simpson, an autopsy now probably isn't going to be of much value.
To bring him home, we had to have him embalmed in order to cross state lines.
Earlier this year, OSHA did issue a warning on the dangers of VOCs in the oil patch. Dr. Robert A. Lynch is a Ph.D. and chairman of the Department of Occupational and Environmental Health at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center, College of Public Health. He describes what happens to someone who is overcome by the types of gases that are found in crude oil.
You get dizzy, lightheaded, lose your balance, shallow breathing, can cause unconsciousness, and then if you're exposed to high enough levels, they can cause death.
Dr. Lynch's department teaches students about VOCs and has the instruments in the lab to detect those vapors in the field or in air samples. He says the dangers of the VOCs involved in the oil and gas industry are very well known.
The information is out there. I can show you, here's a toxicological profile for xylene, which is a common VOC. Here's one for benzene. So these, you can look at the date on these. This one's from 2007.
Cindy Simpson wants oilfield workers to be required to carry the equipment necessary to actually warn them when they're being exposed to VOCs.
I don't want anyone else to have to suffer the way my family suffered.
The preliminary recommendations from the federal government include having someone backing up whoever is opening those thief hatches, using remote monitoring instead of doing it manually, better training, respiratory protection, including self-contained breathing equipment, and new emergency procedures. So far, those are just recommendations.